How to escape the debt trap. As soon as you become an adult in this world, most young people are thrown into making decisions around money that they're not properly prepared to do. The result of people getting thrown into making decisions that they're not ready to make is that people get into debt at an extremely young age. When you're 18, 19, 20 years old, and you don't really know exactly what the consequences of you taking that debt on is, if that makes sense. And as a result, you fall into this cycle where you constantly are trying to catch up and make the payments on the debt that you took out at a really young age. And as a result of that, you can't really save your money. And that's what I wrote here. I truly believe that debt is the reason that most young people and most people in the world, but I like to keep it centered around young people because we have the opportunity to still learn from the people who made the mistakes before us, right? So debt and how predatory the entire financial system is what is keeping a lot of people down. It's keeping a lot of people from achieving or doing things that they want. I don't think people truly, people do understand, I'm sure, because a lot of people struggle. But if you say it out loud, people who are poor, and if you have a lot of debt, if your income is strained every week, if you're living paycheck to paycheck, it becomes very hard for you to do things that you truly want to do. It's hard for you to get a car that you want. It's hard for you to take a job or a job change. It's hard for you to take a new job or do something that you want to do because you have debt and you have these obligations that no matter how old they are, no matter what you do, it's all math. If you don't ever make enough money to pay off the debt that you took on, then you're going to constantly be struggling. And sadly, that is the trap that most people find themselves in, at least in my opinion. As I get older and I look around, people I work with, older people, younger people, people my age, everybody has the same problem in America. Everybody has debt. It doesn't matter what race you are. This is not just a black or white thing. Everybody has debt. And even people who have large or lots of income, they still struggle with this. So it's clearly something that it's a classless thing. It doesn't matter if you're poor or rich. It still affects you, but it affects you more so obviously if you're poor. So the debt trap. This is the position that 90%, I didn't look this up. That's just off the top, but I'm willing to bet it's a good amount of people. 90% of the population is in. And again, I don't think being in debt is fun. If you're constantly struggling, that's probably not a fun life to live. I'm making it a personal goal of mine to try to avoid being in debt as much as possible and consumer debt. I'm not saying I will never take out debt for a business loan or something like that. And you can talk about that and have a whole entirely different conversation around good debt, bad debt, whatever. But for the average consumer debt, credit cards, car loans, they generally keep you down and they make it hard for you to save your money. And if you don't ever get to the point where you can save money consistently and have a solid emergency fund, have a solid budget, you will never be able to invest. That is the true cheat code. Like, forget all of this debt shit, y'all. Until y'all understand that wealth, being rich, whatever you want to call it, bro, like on some serious stuff, whatever you want to call it, having a lot of money, being successful, it's mostly math equations. And of course, those math equations are based around your behavior and how you are as a human and your tendencies and your habits, etc. But if you can master the math part of it, which most people don't ever do, you can actually save money at a pretty high rate and invest in things. You can invest in stuff over time and never have to cut off your investments due to emergencies if you have a solid base. But most people have debt, and the debt on a weekly to weekly basis, each time you get a paycheck deposited in your account, the debt is going to eat away at your potential to invest, at your potential to save. So if you have debt all the time from the age of 18 to 40, you're never going to be able to save. And by then you miss out on the compound interest that you could have had over those 22 years of investing if you would have been able to save your money. That's why I'm so adamant about this, because all we have to do is just try to stay out of debt when we're young. And I'm not saying it's easy. I should probably move on because I'm going to talk about that, how the system is rigged. The predatory financial system is rigged to keep us down. But I'm not one of those people who like to blame the system. Oh, the system. Yes, the system is rigged. But I always say, like, it's a game. Like, okay, are you going to tap out of the game and quit? You going to be like a little pussy? Or I don't know if I can say that on here. I hope the video doesn't get banned or something. But you're going to be a scaredy cat? Or is you going to fight back? Like, you have to fight back. So the only way to fight back is learning how the system works at an early age. And I put in parentheses here, which most of us don't. Most of us, unfortunately, I don't want to say most, but a good amount of us don't come from the most strong background, the most strong family upbringing. And as a result, you don't ever get taught these things that people who do, the rich people, they get taught this at the dinner table when they're like 8 years old. They learn these things about debt and avoiding, and by virtue of them having wealth, they don't have to go into debt, just by virtue of that. But they learn these things that we don't learn. The average consumer, the average, whatever you want to call it, the average citizen doesn't learn a lot of things about money. So that's why you fall into the traps. The system, you have to learn how it works at a young age. So this inherent fact, I don't even know what I meant when I wrote this sentence, but let's read it. This inherent fact about human life combined with the consumer culture that we live in makes it hard for young people to beat the system. Actually, I do know what I meant. Exactly what I was just saying. So you already have this predatory financial system that is inherently built into almost every society. There's always going to be people at the top and people at the bottom. There's always going to be traps that people can fall into. I'm sure back in the day when people lived in tribe, did the barter system, we exchanged goods and whatnot, I'm sure there were still traps that people fell into, like, yo, you got to give me 30 bananas and then you get trapped into giving them 50 bananas. I don't know, but y'all get what I'm saying. So this is just how humans are. It's a game. Human animals, you can say life is a game for all of us, right? So this inherent fact that is pretty much built into like human life, combined with this consumer culture that we live in nowadays, where everybody wants to buy everything. And especially if you're young, you're impulsive by default. So you want to just get everything that looks nice. It makes it really hard for the average 16, 17 to 25-year-old or whatever, 30, everybody. But for young people, it makes it hard for us to not fall into these traps. I know too many young people, getting a car loan as a young person is normalized. It's not looked at as a bad thing if you have car debt. It's not looked at as a bad thing if you have student loan debt. In fact, people, our parents, our family members encourage us to do these things. It's almost as if the system, like I said, it's not our parents' fault. It's not our family's fault. They're not trying to intentionally ruin our financial life, but it's normalized. The entire society operates on a mindset that being in debt is okay. But that's why most people don't ever get what they truly want, I guess. Most people are struggling. Most people have debt. Most people don't ever pay off their mortgage until they're like 80 years old or whatnot, like 67 years old. And you don't want to do that. So how to beat the trap? If you're young watching this, try to avoid debt at all costs. So of course, the way to beat the debt trap is to not go into debt. And that's much easier said than done. And I think the harsh reality is that in a lot of ways, especially if you come from a poor upbringing, debt may be the only way for you to get out of a situation. If you want to go to school, and you come from a poor family, you might have to go into debt. And I'm not saying that you shouldn't do that, but you have to be smart about it. We need to do research about, interest rates. If you're going to take out a loan for something, figure out exactly what your monthly payment is ahead of time. We need to have a better picture of what debt means, what it is, and how it can be used as a tool rather than how it holds us down or how we allow it to hold us down, if that makes sense. And if you're an old person watching this, or I shouldn't say old, I feel like that's a bit mean. If you're older than like 25, 30 watching this, I would say, and you have debt, let's say, you should just try to avoid going into more debt, of course. But I think the most important thing as an older person, because most people have made these financial mistakes, like it's not even something that's rare. This is common. So this is like the 90 percentile group here. Most people who are in this position, the way to get out of it is a math equation. You have to just learn how to manage your money. You have to learn how to save your money. You have to learn how to budget your money. You have to learn how to give up things in life that you normally get because you are used to getting those things with your money. You can't go out to eat every weekend if you're in debt, and this is much easier said than done. But I get it. It's all the typical things. You got to stop going out to eat, limit your spending, stop doing discretionary stuff, no vacations, etc. But the sad truth is that human beings, we want things. We like to have fun. We want to go on vacation. So it's hard for people to give up these things that you're used to, especially if you've been funding your life through debt for like 10, 15 years. If you're like 35, you've been in debt since you was 18, it becomes normal to you. So you're like, why would I not go on vacation? Because I got debt? Oh, you crazy. I'm still going on vacation. But you have to think about it as like the bigger picture. You know what I'm saying? So yeah, that's pretty much what I wanted to talk about. how to escape the debt trap. If you like the video, please like and subscribe. And as always, it's been your boy Brandon Davis. I'm out.